Hello there. I'm Teresa Norton, and I want to welcome you back to The View from Abroad, Season 2. My guest today is Charlie Schroeder. Charlie is a journalist, an author, a corporate trainer, and in a previous life, a character with a very special talent on the hit series Sex and the City. I sent Charlie a few of the newspaper columns I wrote 30 years ago when I was living in Hong Kong, and together we're going to unpack the one he chose. So before he joins us, let's just have a listen to that column from the early 1990s. Reeling down the Hershey Highway. I don't know, maybe I'm nuts or maybe I'm just suffering from a hangover, a whopper of a hangover. But low as I may feel this morning, I know it's just a matter of time before I fall from grace again. It was just too sweet, literally. As I mentioned last week, I began the new year with a belly full of beets and a poorly typed photocopy of a 3-day diet clasped firmly in my hand. I even convinced my husband to join me. So, for 3 days, we worked our way together through a small mountain of dry tuna fish and a red sea of beetroot, standing in turn on the bathroom scale each morning. Get obsessed and stay obsessed is my motto when it comes to peeling off the pounds. I'm not eating all these string beans. Fine, Joe, don't eat them. But if you look at the instructions at the bottom of the page, it says you have to follow the rules exactly in order to lose the 10 pounds. I pointed out as I weighed exactly 8 ounces of canned beets to accompany the beans. This is disgusting. It's the flavor combinations. All of these things are okay on their own, but can't we put some vinegar or Tabasco or something on these damn beets? Nope, I replied, checking the diet instructions for the umpteenth time and tucking into 1 pound of unadorned vegetable. Imagine you're on a camping trip, out somewhere remote, and all you can eat is what you brought in. When I hiked into Desolation Wilderness, I brought instant noodles. I didn't lug 2 pounds of tinned beetroot, said Joe, gagging down another mouthful. That's it. I can't eat this stuff. Give me tomorrow morning's 5 crackers and a slice of cheese instead. And so it went for 3 days. I followed the rules to the letter. He improvised. And at the end of 3 days, I had lost 8 pounds and he had lost 6. This is amazing, he exclaimed, stepping off the scale on morning number 4. This is not fair, I whined, peering down at the LCD readout between my 2 big toes. How come I only lost 8 pounds? I followed the diet exactly. That night, Mr. I'll just eat my 5 saltines anytime I want to, headed into the kitchen to celebrate. I followed him, and what came afterwards was, well, let's just say we fell off the diet wagon together and landed in a gallon carton full of Whoppers. Whoppers are the American equivalent of Maltesers, only sweeter. And at a certain discount store, you can buy them by the milk carton full. In a moment of weakness, sometime after Christmas and before the diet, I succumbed to their charms. Joe and I passed that carton back and forth between us all night long. It was like a scene from the days of Wine and Roses. We were on a sugar high and heading for Mars bars, baby. Give me another hit from the Whopper carton, he slurred through chocolate-covered lips. Hey, look. They got recipes on the back. I staggered over to where he lay on the couch. Whoppers candy milkshake. There are even instructions on how to crush Whoppers. Oh, man, check this out. Whoppers candy malt shop pie, he read with a wild look in his eye. Look, I can't remember all the details. It was a pretty crazy night. But the pie involved chocolate-flavored crust, a filling of softened vanilla ice cream, whipped topping, and 2 cups of crushed Whoppers, plus more whipped topping and 8 to 10 whole Whoppers as garnish, to be served with hot fudge sauce and whipped cream. Says here they contain 30% less fat than the average leading chocolate-flavored candy brands. Toss me another handful, I remember mumbling into the carpet. Oh, we partied all right. We got down with the malted milk balls. But when you live life in the fast lane of the Hershey Highway, you're gonna crash. And that blood sugar level hit rock bottom about 7:15 the next morning, when our son's voice dragged me out of my stupor. "Mommy, your breath smells like a chocolate malted. I thought you and Daddy were on a diet." Well, one day at a time, and it's a new day, right? Oh, God, the guilt, the remorse, feeling so dirty, and knowing how hard it is to get chocolate stains out of colored fabrics. Charlie, welcome to The View from This Broad.
Thank you so much, Teresa. This is so exciting. This is great. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's so nice to see you. You know, so many things have changed since that column was written, not the least of which is where we lived and where we're now living and what we used to do to earn money and what we're doing to earn the money to buy those gallon cartons of Whoppers today.
Exactly.
I mean, in the 1990s, were you working as an actor then?
Well, sure. I was working as many things in the 1990s, but yeah, I basically from 1997 on, I made my living as an actor. So about 3 years after college. But as you know, it's a hard scrabble profession and you do whatever comes along.
Well, you got lucky, baby. I mean,
I
were you
did.
living in New York or were you based in LA?
So at that time, I was in New York. I lived in New York between 95 and 2003. And yeah, I mean, I did a few commercials here and there. I had some Bite and Smiles. They're very fun. It's when you like eat a piece of chicken and think, this is the greatest chicken I've ever had. And then they have a spit bucket on the floor for you to put it into after your take. But then, yeah, I mean, I did theater, film, television, and New York is a great place to be when you're poor and in your 20s, Teresa. It really is.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we met in Hong Kong, and it was just after your book, Man of War, was
Yes.
published, that it documented historical reenactments, and you kind of participated in all those things.
I sure did. It was a filthy 15-month exploration. And really the genesis of that book, Teresa, was that my actual, like the very first job I got paid for, acting job, was when I was still in college. And I performed nearby where I lived in Pennsylvania at a Renaissance fair.
Ah.
And so
I can hear the lutes and the mandolins playing in the background.
yeah. And a lot of people don't know what Renaissance fairs are. I think they're very particular to the United States where, we don't have a lot of history here. So people like to invent history. Just take it.
Yeah.
And so the Renaissance fair is this, mock shire in the middle of Lancaster, Pennsylvania. And I was just thrilled because they hired me to play Romeo in the 30-minute version of Romeo and Juliet.
The best of Romeo
The best of greatest hits. Yes.
Where are four art?
And I'm
That's
dead.
it.
Scene.
So, okay. So what, listen, why did you choose that column? What in it resonated with you?
Well, first of all, you used the word Hershey right off the bat. I mean, you hooked me with that.
That's right. Pennsylvania, because that's where you're living.
Yeah. So I've lived in New York, Los Angeles, Hong Kong. My wife, Wendy, and I, who's from Hong Kong, we came back to Lancaster 5 years ago. Hershey's 30 minutes away. As a kid, I played baseball in a little town called Lidditz, Pennsylvania, which was downwind of Wilbur chocolate. So chocolate, just in general, Whoppers, Hershey bars, whatever, plays a very, very important role in my life. But the other thing about it that I really loved is that we can all identify with dieting.
Oh, God.
And in fact, when I was working on the radio, I did a piece about trying to lose weight in a month. It was for Weekend America, a public radio show that was based out of Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And I had somebody say something very profound to me, Teresa, and it's stuck with me to this day.
Okay.
Diet is a noun. It's not a verb. Let's just let that soak in for your guests.
Percolate on that for a minute. Yeah.
It's a noun, not a verb.
Yeah.
And so I think, there's fads and there's things that we try and there's New Year's resolutions and all of this other stuff. But, well, ultimately, if we want to be healthy, we got to, and you lived in Hong Kong, food is everything to the Chinese. And
listen,
so important.
Just double clicking on this fad diets. I had a friend of mine, Brian Brenner, who did the column that preceded this one, which was, the one where we were actually going to embark, my then husband and I, on this fad diet. And, I wonder if I don't hear so much about fad diets anymore.
That's a
I
good
mean,
point.
maybe what's replaced them are all of those Facebook adverts for sit in an armchair Pilates and Tai Chi for anyone over the age of 50. It seems to be the emphasis is more on moving your body and less about diets. Does you think that's
Well,
right or no?
I'm going to interject literally or inject another thing into this conversation, which is
Yes.
Ozempic.
Oh,
All of the
yeah.
all the jabs. You would not believe, at least here in the States now, the number of people I know that are sticking themselves with a needle every week
Oh
to low
my God.
to lower weight. Yeah. So it's a
And,
huge thing here. Yeah.
I didn't even consider that. I didn't even consider that when thinking about talking to you about this. But yeah, I mean, that's a huge change in the last
Huge.
30 years. And I'm sure that for some people, that is, the difference between any kind of quality of life and not having that. This podcast kind of gives us an opportunity to look at, has the world changed? Have we changed? I think part of the way that I feel about my body and dieting and things of that nature has changed dramatically as I've gotten older. I'm going to be 70 next month. And I just think to myself, yay. And I think to myself, my reasons for wanting to change the shape of my body are very different today than they were when I was in my
Sure.
40s. And it's more about yeah, taking care of your health than it is
Without
looking
question.
hot in a bikini.
Yes.
Those days are
Oh,
behind me.
I put the looking hot in bikini days way behind me, Teresa.
Hey, listen, let me ask you another thing in that
Yes.
column that I'm curious to know, has this changed? That whole idea of bulk buying, because when I
Mm,
first moved to Hong Kong in the 80s, there were no Costco type discount warehouse membership club things.
yeah.
But I did a little research in prep for this conversation with you, and I discovered that I was thinking there was a place called Grand Mart that opened up, and it opened in 1993, and the brothers Patrick and Gregory were the two guys that opened it. And when it hit town, we all of the American young mothers were
Mm.
swarming in there to buy Skippy peanut butter by the barrel and those dangerous chocolate-covered malted milk balls by the gallon.
Yes.
But the thing was we weren't buying it for the volume of it. We had teeny-weeny little apartments that we were trying
Sure.
to squish the Bisquick and Cheetos into, right? We didn't have big garages or basements.
Yeah.
But it was about getting things that we couldn't get there unless somebody sent it to us.
Yeah.
When
Or
you
taped it to their body on a flight and smuggled it in.
boxes of
The
Bisquick.
Whoppers, the Whopper Mule. I'm thinking you're familiar with the Whopper Mule, aren't? That's a pretty common run between the U.S. and Hong Kong.
The sniffer dogs,
One hopes they tape it to their body. They don't put it somewhere else.
I
Is that a Whopper? Are you sure that's a Whopper? or or has that been in one of your orifices for 16 hours?
Oh my God. Look, was there anything when you get back, because you recently
Sorry.
took a trip with Wendy to Hong Kong, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So
We were there for a month.
when you're not in Hong Kong,
Yes.
are there things that you think if I could buy that item by bulk, I would probably end up binging on it? An item from Hong Kong.
Oh, without question. Wonton mean. Yeah, wonton soup. I mean, you can get wonton in the States, obviously, but you can't go to I'm going to show my stripes here. Max Noodles, for
Yeah.
example, which is, arguably the sort of most famous, one of the most famous, if not the most famous, and also probably one of the most expensive wonton places in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, if I could go to Costco, if Max Noodles, and I'm just putting this out there if the owners of Max Noodles are listening. If you want to pitch this idea, I will be your import-export guy.
And you can also do the commercial, and you wouldn't have to have a bucket to spit the wonton out in. You just go ahead and eat it all.
I would spit it in the bucket and then put it back in my mouth. I love it that much.
You know what? When I left Hong Kong a couple of years ago to move to Portugal, my good friend, oh, I can't remember his name all of a sudden.
Best
Isn't
friend.
that terrible?
Oh,
Isn't that
trust me.
my dear close personal?
Trust me, Tammy. I mess up names all the time.
I'm really freezing on this now.
That's okay.
Anyway, this guy who is a very dear friend of mine and the last person I saw before I left Hong
Andy.
Kong. No, it wasn't Andy. I did see Andy, but it wasn't Andy. It was Peter. It was Peter Basmajian. Okay. So on the last night before I left Hong Kong, Peter Basmajian took me out to dinner and we walked around and then we went by one of those, stores that has just everything in it. And
Hmm.
he said, I have to get you something to take with you. And he gave me a bag of White Rabbit candy.
Oh, yeah.
That milk,
Hmm.
with the
Yep.
paper that dissolves in your mouth.
Yep.
And I'll tell you something, I don't know what kind of preservatives they have in that, but it lasts forever. I still
Sure
have
it's
some.
fine.
2 years later, another thing that when I look back on that kooky column, I used a 12-step metaphor,
Mm,
right? And if I wouldn't use that if I were writing it today.
mhm.
And it's not because, I would worry about being, canceled,
Sure.
The reason it's not one of those things like, has the world changed and I've had to change the way I think about a humorous metaphor. No, it's because I have at at this age and stage in my life, too many people I know and care about whose lives were saved
Mhm.
by a 12-step program. So that would be something that I'm very sure that that metaphor wouldn't have made it in.
Right.
But I'm just wondering because you have not only have written the book, you're a man of war, but you've done a lot of writing over the years. Is there anything when you look back where you think, I would not do that piece, or I wouldn't have included that in the book either because you think it would be offensive to other people or because your sort of standards or beliefs have changed?
Wow, that's a great question. There's one piece that I wrote. I wrote a piece for the Los Angeles Times Magazine a number of years ago, and I would have gone about doing it in a different way. I would say that in terms of the process of writing it, and how I interviewed people, and because I was very green and I didn't really know what I was doing.
Mm,
Um, but fortunately, I had very good editors that were good. They guided me through the process. I would say actually, to be perfectly honest, with Man of War, because nobody can teach you how to write an 80,000 word book.
yeah.
Looking back on it now, I was like, "Oh, I wish I did this, this, and this." Like, there were some criticisms in the book that were very valid. Like, I didn't like little things like I didn't describe people's facial characteristics the right way. I took the very lazy way out and just said, "Oh, they look like this celebrity." So there were like I wouldn't say there was anything that was necessarily ethical about it that I would
Yeah.
redo, but there were definitely stylistic things that I would do differently if I knew better and if I had more time and more experience. Yeah.
Well, listen, I mean, I've got 300 of these columns, and believe me, there's more than 1 or 2 that I look at now and I think, "No."
Yeah. Yeah.
And sometimes it's because I look at it and think, "Oh, it's a shame because I still think this is funny."
Yeah.
But, some of them, it's like, I can't even believe I wrote that then,
Right. Right.
in an
Yeah.
effort to be funny, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, but I think give yourself a little bit of somebody said to me recently, give yourself a little bit of grace as well. I
yeah.
think, you're writing a weekly column is if people don't realize it's a tremendous amount of pressure. And they may look at it and say, "Oh, well, it's, a column, it's what, 600 words or something like that. That can't be that much."
750 a week.
750. I mean, that is a lot. When I first moved to Hong Kong, I was writing a column for the New York Observer, and I really struggled to find out, like, what are you going to write about every single week?
I remember talking to a journalist friend of mine, a young, very talented writer, and I said to her, "God, I wish I could write like that again." She
Mm,
said, "You'll never write like that again."
yeah,
And the fact of the matter is when I think about why I wouldn't be able to write like that again, it's because I knew nothing then,
yeah, right,
right? And now it's like the more you know, the more critical you are of your own work, the more you labor over it. Then it was just like, I think
yeah.
this is funny.
Just get it out the door. Get it,
I
yeah.
think this is a point I think that needs to be made.
And
Yeah.
also, I think with age comes I mean, energy is certainly a part of, I mean, at least for me.
Yeah.
And a friend of mine once said, very fantastic writer, used to say, panic is my muse.
Mm.
And I think the older we get, the less we want to panic to get something out the door. That takes a tremendous amount of mental fortitude and focus. And let's be honest, at 69, almost 70, and 54 is that how you want to be spending your days? I'm guessing probably not. I don't know. But you're doing this?
This is an absolute pleasure for me. I mean, to sit and be able to talk to people and kind of rehash how things have changed and how we've changed is just a pleasure.
I teach business writing now, and one of the things I always tell people is I really dislike the word writing because I
Mm,
think that the word writing implies that some people are great writers and they just know how to do it.
mm,
And so what I always tell people that it's a bit sloppy, it's a bit chunky, but if you just think of yourself as a drafter and an editor,
mm.
that's really what writing's all about.
That's lovely.
And Anne Lamott, fantastic writer as well. She said, if anybody ever saw my first draft, like if I died at my keyboard and they saw my first drafts, I would be mortified.
Yeah. No, that's a great piece of advice because it takes the pressure off you. You know, as an improv um, student, I worked with Keith Johnstone, and I
Wow.
have quoted him before in this podcast. But I'm an actor, and
Yeah.
so I was in there with improvisers, but I like rehearsal.
Yeah.
And he saw me sort of agonizing to get into a scene, but not moving. And he came up behind me and he put his hands on my shoulders and he whispered in my ear, he said, "Don't do your best.
Mm.
Just do." And
Yeah.
gave me a little nudge.
Love
And
it.
sometimes, that's what we have to remind ourselves. Well, listen, okay, it's a time for a break, but before
Sure.
we get to that break, inquisitive minds want to know, how does one audition for the role of Mr. Pussy on Sex in the City? I tell you, I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall or
Sure.
or a fly in your cranium as you were preparing for that audition. Do tell.
Well, so here's the irony of that is that I was not asked to audition for Mr. Pussy. I was asked to audition for another role. And here's the thing that always blows me away about this process is that they came in, they had me read for this other role, and they kind of looked at me. There were like 3 or 4 people, the casting director and the producer or whatever, and they were kind of like, would you be interested in reading for this role? And they handed me the script. And the thing, they handed me the script. The thing is, Mr. Pussy only says like 3 words in 3 scenes. And so actually it was the final scene of that episode. And Charlotte, the character, is trying to make a connection with this guy, Mitch, Mr. Pussy. And it's her monologue. And basically I just sit there and I just listen to the monologue.
He's a man of few words, but boy, when those lips move.
Indeed. And so at the end of the scene in the actual TV show, I pick up she goes, "You're very quiet. What are you thinking about?" And I pick up a fig and I just start to lick it.
Tom
And
Jones.
and in the audition room, they had a bowl of orange wedges.
Mm.
And so for the audition, after they sent me out, because, I went into the waiting room, they're like, "Would you like to read for this role?" And I'm reading and I'm like, I don't say anything. He just picks up an orange or figs and starts to lick it. So literally the audition was me just kind of sitting there like this, kind of going. And then at the end, she goes, "What are you thinking?" And I just pick up the orange and I just start to lick it like this. And they were like, "That was great." And I was like, "That was the weirdest audition I've ever had."
That is exactly what we all wanted to hear. Let's take a break. Charlie, you have written and produced segments for NPR, National Public Radio, for people who are not from the U.S., and you train corporates in business writing and presentation skills. But you have chosen a charity for this infomercial segment. And
Yeah.
can you tell us a little bit about the Common Wheel?
So the Common Wheel, we are a community bike organization in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. When I moved back to the States 5 years ago, I really wanted to be involved with a nonprofit. And it took me a while to find the one that really resonated with me. And this is the one. I took an adult bike mechanic class there. And I just loved the story of this organization. So the real bedrock, the foundation of the common wheel is a program called Earn a Bike. And this is this great program for kids between roughly in the age, early teens, 9 to sort of 18ish. And for them, they come into our one of our locations. We have 2 locations in Lancaster, and we recycle a lot of bicycles. People
Hmm.
donate their bicycles to us. And so they get to go and find the bike of their dreams. Okay. The only problem is that the bike of their dreams needs a little work because they've been sitting in barns or they've been tied to trees or whatever it is. And so this program, Earn a Bike, they choose that bike. And then over the course of a few weeks, they get to fix it up,
Oh,
put new
gosh.
tires on it, handlebars, saddles, pedals, you name it, whatever it needs. They go through a financial component where they understand how much all of those parts cost. And then at the end of that program, they get to keep the bike.
Wow.
So I just think it's the best idea for a program ever. It's about being environmentally friendly. Obviously, you are saving bikes from the dumpster, from the scrap heap. You're teaching kids these fantastic mechanical skills, financial skills, life skills, social skills. And at the end of it, they have what every kid wants is a bike,
That sense of accomplishment,
a sense of
you
accomplishment.
know?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So we do a lot of other things in the community, but that's really the foundation of the common
Yeah.
wheel.
Yeah. No, that is wonderful. I did take a look at the website. It is www.thecommonwheel, all one word.com. So I just think it's wonderful. And it's the thing that's lovely about sharing this globally is that okay, people who live in the States that think this is a great idea could donate to and support the Commonweal in Lancaster, right?
Yeah.
But this also is a seed of an idea for anybody anywhere in the world who is listening to this. Thecommonwheel.com. Check that out. Now we want to hear the story that was spawned by that column. All right, Charlie Schroeder. I am all ears. Tell me, what word, idea, situation spawned a memory for you?
From your column, I would honestly, right from the very beginning, it was just in the title, Hershey. I mean, because I live 30 minutes away from Hershey, because I grew up so close to Hershey, you just hooked me because I wasn't expecting to see that. A column in Hong Kong talking about Hershey and the Hershey Highway, and there's a lot of euphemism in the Hershey Highway as well. We don't need to get into that, Teresa.
I think you
Um,
already did.
oh, that's right, the Whoppers. We talked about the Whoppers earlier.
The Whopper Mule.
Whopper Mule. Um, but yeah, that for me, that's it. I mean, as a person of German heritage, my surname is Schroeder. My mother is a Groff. Chocolate is woven into the fabric of our lives, much like trains and efficient automobiles. And then, of course, as the idea went on about this sort of struggle to try to find the right food to eat and having these very lofty goals that we all have, I think it resonated very much with me because, I mean, been there, done that. I weigh 147 pounds now, but when I lived in Los Angeles, I lived 175 pounds at one point,
Yeah.
and I really struggled with the ebb and flow and the fluctuation of my weight. And I think we're all sort of searching for a better, healthier way to live. So your comf, your struggle within that column really resonated with me, and it also was just funny. And I think that
Well,
it should be seen as funny and not too precious.
when you were growing up, do you remember, did chocolate play a big part in any of your holidays?
But yeah, we had Easter baskets, and we would put we would hide the Easter. I grew up on 5 acres in the woods and next to an Amish farm and a Mennonite school, so it was in the middle of nowhere.
Wow.
So it kind of, it was weird. It smelled like chocolate and manure at the same time. So again, we're going back to the Whopper Mule. Um, the this, is there an X-rated version of this podcast? Because I think we've hit it
As of today, there is. Yes. Yeah. Would the baskets be hidden in the
in
land
the
between
shed.
the manure
Oh
and the
yes,
chocolate spells? Or
yes, up against the fence. We literally, Teresa, we had an outhouse And like, so we had a shed that had an outhouse that was from the previous owner. Our house was built in 1738.
A used
A
outhouse.
used outhouse,
Nice.
gently used. And there was a shed and there were tools in there or whatever. And so you never knew. Maybe the basket was going to appear in there. There was an outdoor oven because the previous owner was a potter and he would, fire his pottery there.
Hands up.
Yeah.
Did the Easter basket ever end up in the used outhouse? Did the
Uh,
bunny ever put it there?
I think even for my father and mother, who were the bunnies, I think even that was
That was a bridge too far.
that was a bridge too far.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Don't cross that threshold.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, typically, and because, and they were filled with huge, chocolate rabbits, of course. And as you would approach or move away, they would be like colder, hotter, like literally. And I'm telling you, I'm not kidding. This was up until like I was in my mid-20s.
This is wonderful.
Mhm.
I love your parents already.
They would love you.
Well, I'll make my way out at Easter time,
There you go.
but I'm steering clear of that outhouse. That
Please do. Please. Well, Milton Hershey, who's founded Hershey Chocolate, is from Lancaster originally.
is he.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
And there are multitudes to this day. It's small chocolate companies in Lancaster and pretzels, and so that heritage runs pretty deep. So chocolate, again, big part of my life.
well, it's very clear why you chose that column. And thank you also for sharing the story about the audition for that
My
role.
pleasure. Still
That
getting a lot of
was
food in this conversation today,
There
Teresa.
has been food and food for thought. And before we say our fond adieus, let me give another plug to the Commonweal. What a lovely idea for a nonprofit that is not only recycling things that still have a life in them and offering a wonderful opportunity for young people to, not only get something that they want, but feel invested in what they've got, right? So
Yeah.
it's the www.thecommonweal.com. And look, if you've enjoyed the podcast, do me a solid and please follow, like, comment on whatever platform you're listening to us on. And, well, whatever path you're cycling along today, now breathe all the time and come up slowly. And if you're feeling anxious about what's around the next corner, well, maybe it's not an outhouse. Maybe it's not a used outhouse. I mean, what if it's good?